CNN was reporting that a woman, possibly white, was stopping people in Hawaii from using her private road to evacuate the tsunami. Turns out it was Oprah Winfrey. Possibly white. What's up? This is Kaye Saves the Republic. That's going to be my new thing. Whenever CNN reports on anything, whenever they report on any African-American lawmaker or black celebrity or anything at all, whenever there's a black person on CNN, I'm going to be like, you know what? In fact, CNN fires possibly white reporter Don Lemon for low ratings and obnoxiousness. That's going to be like, that's going to be the new headline. I'm trying to think of another one. What's another? You know what? It'll come to me. I'm not going to force it. I'm just going to wait for these things to pop in. Oh, I got another good one. CNN reports that a senator from New Jersey, possibly white, goes on irate tirade and tries to filibuster Congress again. That one wasn't as good. Like I said, I don't want to force it, but when the time comes, you will know when the CNN jokes are about to pop up. What's going on, man? Look, we have so much going on today. This is what I like to call the summer of Epstein. And I know that Donald Trump and a bunch of people at the White House don't want to call it that, but it seems to be the summer of Epstein. That's what 2025 has become. And it's not just because of the mishandling by Pam Bondi and the Trump administration and everybody else. Not just because we're going to give you the files. No, we're not going to give you the files. Yes, we are going to give you the files. Wait a minute, there aren't any files. Not because of all that, but just because both Democrats and Republicans have really figured out an issue now that they can both glom onto. It's really, really, really kind of wild. But they've both figured out an issue that they can both glom onto. And depending on what their goal, they're now using this Epstein mess to try to accomplish whatever it is that they want to accomplish. For example, there's Republicans out there who are still pushing to get the Epstein files released in full. They're pushing Kash Patel. They're pushing Pam Bondi. They're pushing President Donald Trump, and they're trying to get American sentiment behind them. And a lot of Americans believe that the Epstein files are still important. Then you got a whole bunch of Democrats who are trying to add these amendments to the Epstein files to anything and everything going on in the Senate, including Donald Trump's nominees getting confirmed. And that's causing a whole other thing. So we'll get to all of that here. The summer of Epstein continues. And Donald Trump yesterday blew the lid off of this Epstein story. He mentioned it a couple times. He mentioned it once when he was in Scotland and again on the plane ride home. He was on Air Force One. You know, that's the thing with Donald Trump on Air Force One. When you're flying from Scotland to DC, and I don't know exactly how long the trip is. I imagine it's long. I think let's see, last time I flew from Atlanta to London, it took like 7 hours, I think. So maybe 7 hours. And you're Donald Trump and you're sitting on a plane and you're stuck in a fuselage for 7 hours. You get bored, right? And you're like, I got to talk to somebody. So you go talk to the press and you start telling stories and they start asking you questions and you start giving answers. And then you land and all of a sudden you're like, wait, what did I say? And then everyone's like, Mr. President, you said this, you said that, you said the other. But it was really interesting what President Donald Trump said. He told the story of his falling out with Jeffrey Epstein. He always said, you know, we knew that Donald Trump had a fallout with Jeffrey Epstein. We knew that Jeffrey Epstein was kicked out of Mar-A-Lago. We know that Donald Trump said he's a creep. He's a creep and I don't want him anywhere near my club. I don't want him anywhere near my friends, my family, nobody. Get him out of here. And so he tossed him. And now we have a little bit more insight and information about how that came to be. But before we get to that story, let me just remind you to please subscribe to this channel. If you're listening on the podcast, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast page because we want to make sure that every time you get in your car or go to work out or pick up your phone, that latest and greatest podcast episode, the latest and greatest episode of Kaye Saves the Republic is right there ready for you to listen. And the best way to do that is to follow, subscribe, set the notifications, whatever it is that you have to do. Do it now on Rumble, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, wherever you happen to be watching. Make sure you get this delivered to you all the freaking time. And also, we're starting to send a super chat. Look, we already got a super chat from Emily. Emily Rodvald wrote, Mark, your thumbnail looks like you are oodling that girl's goodies. Love your show. Wish I lived in Florida so I could vote for you. Emily, I appreciate that very much. I may or may not have placed myself in the thumbnail of this video in a way that would look like I was doing that as a way to attract attention to the video. That may have been what they call, clickbait. They call that clickbait. They say, here, let's put a girl in a bikini on the thumbnail, and then we'll have the host looking like, what's going on? It also could have just been accidental. But Emily, either way, thank you so much for your generous super chat. We really appreciate it. Our goal, by the way, just so you know, we have a goal, and I should probably talk about our goals. I never really talk about our goals. I talk about everything else. I talk about Donald Trump's goals. I talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill's goals. I talk about Congress's goals. I never really talk about our goals. Our goal on YouTube every single day is 20 super chats. And if you drop a super chat of $5 or more, look, we'll take the time to read your message. That's the promise, because we set a goal every single day, and it's you write a message, drop a super chat of $5 or more, and we will read your message no matter what it is. And people have used it to promote themselves, to promote their YouTube channels, to promote their businesses. People have used it to just insult me. Whatever. It doesn't matter. If you're paying, you can insult me all you want. And that's what we do. And we do it on Rumble as well. Rumble rants and super chats. Our goal is 20 per show. And we've been short of that goal pretty much every single broadcast since we started. But one day we'll hit that goal for sure. We're already down 1. So we only need 19 more to go before the end of the program. And one more thing, before we get to Epstein, something happened with the EPA. Lee Zeldin is the head of the EPA. And he is pushing this deregulation. And deregulation is my favorite word. Deregulation is my favorite word. I hate regulations. Regulations just means rules. Regulations just means stopping you from doing something. Regulation just means slowing down your growth. I hate regulations. And anytime that the government can deregulate or remove regulations or, any of those things, I'm all about it. And one of the things I hate most is when I get into my car and I'm driving. My car is only probably like 4 years old. But I get into my car and I'm driving around and I'm just, minding my own business. And then there's a stoplight. So I stop at the stoplight and I hit the brake. And as soon as I come to a complete stop, the friggin' engine cuts off. And it always wigs me out. I'm like, why is my engine not running? And then all of a sudden the light turns green and I hit the gas and boom, the engine comes back on and we go into motion. And it's just so distracting and disturbing and so ridiculous and unnecessary. But yet, because of Barack Obama and his ridiculous and unnecessary environmental protections, my car stops and starts every time I go to the stoplight. And it's really, like I said, there's a button I can press to turn it off, but I have to press it and turn it off every single time I get in the car. And I don't always remember that. So now Lee Zeldin and the EPA are doing something about that, which I believe is one of the biggest issues facing America today.
EPA is proposing to rescind the 2009 Obama EPA endangerment finding to eliminate all of the greenhouse gas emissions regulations that followed, including electric vehicle mandates, which amounts to $1 trillion worth of savings. And on top of it, that much hated start-stop technology, EPA is also proposing to eliminate that off-cycle credit that incentivized it. As you just mentioned, if finalized, this amounts to the largest deregulatory action in the history of the United States, thanks to President Trump, the Trump mandate, and the American people.
There you go. Deregulatory action. There's no better phrase in the United States of America, except maybe defund the IRS. But deregulatory action, there's no better phrase in the United States of America than deregulatory action, because we have so many regulations, and regulations have just been tossed on here to slow down our growth, to promote electric news scams, to make sure that the Democrat donors are rolling in dough and that the rest of us are doing stupid things to pay for it. And that kill switch is the perfect example of what we're talking about. The kill switch on your car, when you come and you stop at the stoplight and it cuts off and then it cuts back on, that's the perfect example of something stupid, something unnecessary, something that Barack Obama's team of idiots came up with to placate the environmental lobby, and something that should be deregulated. And now, thanks to Donald Trump and EPA Secretary, or the EPA Administrator, Lee Zeldin, now it's going to be. And now I can't do anything about my car, but I guess next time when I buy a new car, it'll be hopefully these car companies will get on board with it and they'll take that crap out of the system, because it's just so ridiculous. Listen, we have coming up here in just a minute. We're going to talk a little bit about something cool that's going on tonight, but first we got to get to this Epstein story. So Donald Trump was in Scotland, which, he was in Scotland and he was talking about the EU deal, which, oh, by the way, Chuck Schumer, this guy, I don't even know. Chuck Schumer's trying to tell people that Donald Trump's EU deal is bad for America. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. I don't understand how Chuck Schumer can just walk out onto the floor of the Senate and just lie about all this kind of stuff. Where is it? Where is it? This one here?
And Schumer is a Palestinian.
No, that's what Schumer's a Palestinian. I think it's this one here. Listen to this.
Over the weekend, Donald Trump announced a new trade deal with the European Union. It will result in a $90 billion per year tax hike on American families. When you raise tariffs, the American families pay for it. $90 billion tax on American families in this tariff deal with the European Union. Donald Trump is, as usual, trying to hype up, exaggerate, and lie about his accomplishments. Donald Trump always lies, almost always lies about his accomplishments, and this is no exception.
Okay, talk about lying, man. That is a blatant lie. A what do you say, $90 billion tax on Americans? That's a lie. That's not going to happen. The tariff revenue is paying down the deficit. The tariff revenue is making it easier for the United States of America and her citizens. The tariff revenue is, I don't even know how to tell you how much of a lie that is. Chuck Schumer lies about a lot of stuff. He's a Democrat. But that is just made up malarkey. The economy is already, before this trade deal even went into effect, the economy is growing. In fact, in July, we had the best GDP. Listen to Kevin Hassett and how he described the GDP for July.
I think if there were a beauty contest for GDP releases, that this July would probably be very close to the top of the list of the early betting, because it got everything for everybody. There's really strong growth, really strong income growth. We've got a huge reduction in government spending, 5% drop in government spending, now 70,000 fewer federal employees. And we've got $127 billion in tariffs. And so the story, the anti-Trump story, has been that we're going to have a recession or a depression because of the tariffs, which are going to jack up prices and cause consumers to run for the exits. And in fact, every single thing about this GDP release has shown strength. And then the final thing that I like to see in a release, and this is why I'm saying it's really a beauty contest level release, is if you look at it, if you then say, oh, well, next quarter is going to even be better than this. Are there reasons to think that? And there are, because if you look at one of the weird little blips in the data, there was a big decline in, say, factory spending. And that was ahead of the big, beautiful bill because people were waiting for that to pass so they could expense. And so there's going to be a huge pent-up demand for factory spending in the third quarter. And so you got to be starting to pencil in a 4% number for that quarter.
All right, so he's looking. By the way, he's such a nerd. If there were a beauty pageant for GDP that Miss July would be the winner for sure, because we have that's Kevin Hassett. That's what happens when you're the director of the what is he? He's the director of the Economic Council. That's what happens is you start to see the GDP and you're like, oh my gosh, she's a beauty. If this were a beauty pageant, then man, Miss July would be the winner. I love it. I love him. He's a great guy. He's fantastic and he's so informative. But that's just a really funny way to put it. And here's Chuck Schumer lying and screaming, and Chuck Schumer saying, no, it's $90 billion worth of taxes. None of that is happening. That is all. Just listen to it one more time.
Over the weekend, Donald Trump announced a new trade deal with the European Union. It will result in a $90 billion per year tax hike on American families.
That's a lot. There's nothing that corroborates that. There's nothing that would lead you to believe that that's anything but a fallacy. And the fact that it's Chuck Schumer lets you know it is definitely a fallacy, because that guy just lies and lies and lies. As Donald Trump said, he's not even Jewish anymore. He's a Palestinian.
And Schumer is a Palestinian as far as I'm concerned. He's become a Palestinian. He used to be Jewish. He's not Jewish anymore. He's a Palestinian. Okay.
Okay. Next. Anyway, that was the whole thing. So Donald Trump's in the EU and he's making this historic deal, and they're doing a press conference with Keir Starmer, and he's sitting there, and somebody asks him about Jeffrey Epstein. Again, It's the summer of Epstein. Everywhere Donald Trump goes, somebody asks us about Jeffrey Epstein, whether he's on the plane, whether he's here, whether he's on CNN, whether he's doing something on the tarmac, whether he's in Scotland at the opening of his new golf club. During the summer of Epstein, it's all about Epstein. And here's the question that Donald Trump got, and here's the answer he gave.
That's such old history, very easy to explain, but I don't want to waste your time by explaining it. But for years, I wouldn't talk to Jeffrey Epstein. I wouldn't talk because he did something that was inappropriate. He hired help.
By the way, this is Donald Trump saying, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to waste your time with it. But let me tell you exactly what happened. Donald Trump's like, oh, that's old history. You know what? It's so old. It's so boring. I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm not going to waste your time telling you what Jeffrey Epstein did. But let me tell you what this clown did.
And I said, don't ever do that again. That was inappropriate. He hired help. And I said, don't ever do that again. He stole people that work for me. I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. And I threw him out of the place, persona non grata. I threw him out, and that was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people.
And that is Donald Trump again. Well, you know, with all of the Epstein files and all the questions and all the documentation that we're still waiting for, and Donald Trump and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel saying we're slamming the lid shut on all of this, then Donald Trump still continues to drop little tidbits, if you will, to drop little breadcrumbs here and there of what actually his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was. And there we hear a little tidbit of the story about how Jeffrey Epstein, and we know they had a falling out. We know they were, look, it's no surprise that Donald Trump knew Jeffrey Epstein. We've all seen the photos. They were both billionaires or multimillionaires in the 80s in New York. And Jeffrey Epstein was a member of the Mar-A-Lago club until Donald Trump threw him out. And Donald Trump saying, look, he started pilfering my employees. He started to pilfer my employees. And I went to him, I said, don't ever do that again. He did it again. I said, you're out of here. You're PNG, persona non grata. And that was the end of his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And he maintains he never went to the island. And there's no proof that Donald Trump ever did go to the island. And Bill Clinton went 28 times. And in fact, Charlemagne the God, T-H-A, God, Charlemagne the God from the Breakfast Club. Charlemagne the God, you know, he's of the "You Ain't Black" fame. He interviewed Joe Biden, and Joe Biden said, "You ain't black." He was talking about this, and he said, "Look, let's actually not forget that the real sleazeball here, that is Charlemagne the God calling out, that is, according to CNN, possibly white Charlemagne the God called out the news media and Bill Clinton for their hypocrisy on Jeffrey Epstein. As CNN would describe him, possibly white Charlemagne the God, host of the Breakfast Club, just said that Bill Clinton went to the island 28 times. Bill Clinton was, Jeffrey Epstein had a painting of Bill Clinton in a dress and high heels. And if Bill Clinton were still president, the media wouldn't talk about it. They would protect him. Those are the words of possibly white Charlemagne the God, who is the mouthpiece for the black community, at least on the radio. That is wild stuff. Anyway, Donald Trump got on the plane. He got on the plane from Turnberry, Scotland, all the way back to Washington, D.C. And when he got on the plane, and a reporter asked him a similar question, and he told an even more in-depth version of the story.
Everyone knows the people that were taken, and it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were. Yes.
Yeah.
What did they do?
In the spa.
Jobs.
In the spa.
Yeah, it's people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-A-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Jeffrey?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah, he stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know, none whatsoever.
Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein stealing, and when he says stealing, when Donald Trump says he stole her, he means they hired her away. You know, Jeffrey Epstein, he's hanging out at Mar-A-Lago, and he goes and he sees these pretty girls. They're working at the spa. They're, you know, rubbing your shoulders. I don't know what they're. I've been to the spa at Mar-A-Lago. I haven't been to the spa. I've seen it. I've walked through it. I've never actually gotten a treatment there. But according to President Donald Trump, it's a beautiful spa, one of the finest in the world. Which, why wouldn't it be? It's at Mar-A-Lago. But this spa is that Virginia Jeffrey is working there, and Jeffrey Epstein's a member, and he goes in and he hires her away. Donald Trump says stole her away. You know, it's not like he threw a bag over her head and chloroformed her and dragged her out the back, although maybe he did. We don't know because the DOJ still has the files. So anyway, what happens is we have Jeffrey Epstein, and we have Donald Trump, and we have Virginia Joffrey, and they're all at Mar-a-Lago. And what we see now is that they are involved in this weird thing where Jeffrey Epstein is pilfering employees from Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is mad because he hires good people. He wants to keep good people. And I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like when you're Donald Trump and you're hiring people at a high level, because this is a high level, all of his clubs are high level, all of his hotels are high level. You need to find good quality people. And these good quality people are hard to come by. And when you find somebody, you want to keep them. You don't want some sleazeball creep like Jeffrey Epstein stealing them, hiring them away, and then doing God knows what with them. Well, we know what, because Virginia Jeffrey told Gayle King exactly what.
Virginia, how did you meet her, and what was her pitch to you?
I'm working at Mar-a-Lago, loving it. I'm working in the spa area. I was reading about anatomy and massage, and that's when Ghislaine came up to me and said, "Oh my God, you're reading a book about massage." And, you know, long story short, she told me that she knew of a man who was looking for a traveling masseuse. And if he liked me, then I would get educated and I would become a real massage therapist. So yeah, I mean, it was a dream of a lifetime until I got there, and the abuse was immediate.
It has been reported that they would prey on young girls who were vulnerable.
She could smell the vulnerability on a person. I told them a little bit about my past and how I'd been abused. So immediately, it was like the Cheshire smile is what I call it. And I asked her, I said, "Why are you having all these girls come in and sleep with your boyfriend?" And she was like, "So I don't have to do it all the time." You know, so she made like a joke out of it.
Why do you think she did it?
She did it to keep Jeffrey happy, for sure. She did it because she loves the control over people. Jeffrey was a sick pedophile, but she was the mastermind.
What would justice look like for you when it comes to Ghislaine Maxwell?
I would like to see Ghislaine stay in jail forever. I'd like her to apologize for what she's done to me and so many others.
Yeah, that's Virginia Jeffrey, who Donald Trump said worked at the Mar-a-Lago spa, who Jeffrey Epstein hired away, who then became one of Ghislaine Maxwell's sex slaves, and who committed suicide. Well, if you're listening to the podcast, I'm doing the air quotes, committed suicide on April 25th of this year at the age of 41 years old. That is exactly what happened. Now, she said justice for me would be if Ghislaine Maxwell stays in prison forever. But it appears that that's not the idea of justice for anyone or for everyone. And Bernie Sanders was asked a question by Caitlin Collins from CNN. Again, weird that Caitlin Collins is pressing Bernie Sanders on this. Maybe she knows something about Bernie Sanders and Epstein's Island that the rest of us don't know. But Bernie Sanders gave a very bizarre answer to the question about Ghislaine Maxwell and immunity in exchange for her testimony.
Would you be okay with Congress giving her immunity to testify? That's what she wants.
I haven't thought about it. I don't know the answer to that.
No position.
You're the first person who has asked me about it.
Okay, well, when you have a position, will you let us know?
You'll be the first.
Senator Bernie Sanders, we always appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's her question. Okay, when you have a position, will you let me know? You're like, yeah, you'll be the first. Wait, what? How is that journalism? How is that asking the probing question? She asked him a question. Bernie Sanders clearly doesn't want to answer it. So instead of asking it again until she gets an answer, she goes, okay, well, hey, hit me back when you have an answer to that question. He's like, yeah, no problem, lady.
Would you be okay with Congress giving her immunity to testify? That's what she wants.
I haven't thought about it. I don't know the answer to that.
No position.
You're the first person who has asked me about it.
Okay, well, when you have a position, will you let us know?
You'd be the first.
Senator Bernie Sanders.
So now Bernie Sanders has to get his group together and they've got to spin it. What's the appropriate reaction? That's him saying, that's basically what it is. Bernie Sanders is a spineless socialist. He's actually a capitalist because he's a multi-bazillionaire. But Bernie Sanders is a spineless socialist. He doesn't have the right answer. He doesn't know if he says, yes, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine if Congress gives her immunity for her testimony so we can get the rest of these guys. He doesn't know if that's going to come back and bite him, because if he says, sure, give Ghislaine Maxwell immunity. Yes, Congress should give her immunity for her testimony so we can go after the bad guys. Guess what? They're going to be going after Bill Clinton. And guess what happens if they go after Bill Clinton because of something Bernie Sanders agreed to? Hillary Clinton's going to come after Bernie Sanders. And the next thing you know, we're going to be hearing about Bernie Sanders dying suddenly, air quotes, of a heart attack at one of the multiple homes that he had purchased for him by the Democrat Party because he dropped out of the race and allowed Hillary Clinton to run basically unopposed. Bernie Sanders doesn't have a position on Ghislaine Maxwell and immunity because he hasn't really thought it through yet. He hasn't figured out who's going to be harmed by Ghislaine Maxwell's testimony and are they someone who I owe my career to. That's what happens when you're a Democrat. That's really what happens when you're anybody in politics these days. You really have to think, okay, if I come out against this person, is that somebody who has helped me or donated millions of dollars to my campaign or gotten somebody out of the way for me so that I could climb the ranks? That's what you really need to think about. There's more though with that. Bernie Sanders isn't the only one in Congress that's moving on Epstein. Listen to Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer is basically trying to stop the Senate from doing anything until the Epstein files are released.
Now I come to the floor this morning with some news. Today, Senate Democrats take additional action to try and uncover the truth about the Epstein files. This morning, I join all of my Democratic colleagues on the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee in invoking a century-old law known as the Rule of Five to compel the Department of Justice to release the full and complete Epstein files, which to date, of course, they have refused to be transparent about. Under federal law, when any 5 senators on the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee call on the executive branch to release investigative documents, they must comply. Our request covers all documents, files, evidence, or other materials in the possession of the Department of Justice or the FBI related to the case of United States versus Jeffrey Epstein. This includes records and documents related to Epstein and his clients, while ensuring that the private information of any victims is protected. We expect the Trump administration to provide these documents by August the 15th. The situation with the Epstein files is very simple. Donald Trump promised transparency, and he has broken that promise. As a candidate, Trump said on many occasions he would release the Epstein files if elected, and yet he has refused to do so.
All right, so Chuck Schumer, this is another one of these hypocritical moments. He's saying he's using a years old tactic called the Rule of Five. What was it he said? Here, let me play it one more time, just because I want to make sure that I have the wording. Properly. Here's Senator Schumer. Oh wait, hold on. Here he is. Here's Senator Schumer.
Now I come to the floor this morning with some news. Today, Senate Democrats take additional action to try and uncover the truth about the Epstein files. This morning, I join all of my Democratic colleagues on the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee in invoking a century-old law known as the Rule of Five.
A century-old law. A century-old law. That's 100 years. Probably more than that, I believe. A century-old law over 100 years saying that if 5 senators get together they can mandate that the Department of Justice release files and investigatory materials. So this centuries-old law is what Chuck Schumer is using to do this. Listen to what he said in this, I don't know, TikTok video.
We're using another tool to pry open the hidden box where Donald Trump is hiding the Epstein files. There's a new tool we're using called the Rule of Five.
Now he
What's
calls
in
it,
those damn files?
Now he calls it a new tool. Wait, they said there's a new tool. He just said it was centuries old. Now it's new?
There's a new tool we're using called the Rule of Five, which will allow us legally to get from the administration what's in those damn files. Any 5 members of the Homeland Security Committee can request documents from the administration, and we are requesting all the documents in the Epstein case. We're going to fight to get them.
All right, so they're using the new century-old tool of the Rule of Five. This guy, I got to tell you, I can clearly tell that he puts cheese on the wrong side of the burger. Because let's talk about age in Congress again. Term limits is definitely something we need to use, because one day he's saying it's centuries old, the next day he's saying it's a brand new tool. He's putting cheese on the raw side of the burger patty. He's Jewish, but he's pro-Palestinian. There's so many hypocritical things going on with Chuck Schumer. You know what? I'm almost excited that AOC is going to run him out of the Senate. I'm almost excited that AOC is going to primary him, because let's be honest. It's about time for him to probably pack. I think his best years are, well, I don't think that he had any best years, but at least, the least worst years are behind him. We'll just go with that. We'll just say it that way. So they're going to try to force Donald Trump to open up these files. Now, again, you have to ask yourself, who is in these files that Chuck Schumer is going to be implicating? And it appears that Chuck Schumer doesn't really care. Chuck Schumer doesn't have the same concerns that Bernie Sanders does. But again, Chuck Schumer doesn't owe his career to the Clintons. So maybe, just maybe, we're going to see some movement on that. Josh Hawley, by the way, had another interesting, because it's amazing now that I'm running for Congress. And if you didn't know this, I'm running for Congress. It says so right here on my hat. And if you would like to support the cause, there's a couple ways to do it. First of all, it looks like we got a Rumble rant. Let me pull myself back up here so you can see me. Looks like we got a Rumble rant from TSTAHLEY 6, Tistali 6, who wrote, would you watch you every day and sent money to your campaign the first day you announced, wish I lived in your state to vote for you. Tistali 6, thank you so much. We really appreciate that. That's fantastic. That's very generous of you, dropping a $5 Rumble rant just now, and also donating to the campaign, which again is something we truly appreciate. And if you're interested in donating to the campaign, there is a really simple and easy way to do it. You just go to markkaye4congress.com, and there you go. You just drop whatever donation you can make. Again, just like Bernie, I'm channeling Bernie Sanders here. $1, $5. It doesn't matter. Whatever you can afford. We're going to build a massive bankroll. We're going to build a massive war chest. $1 at a time. So what we're looking for is just whatever you can spare. If it's $25, that's great. If it's $50, that's incredible. If it's $100, go you. If you want to give $3,500, which is the maximum allowable amount by the FEC, I'll call you or something. We'll chat. Maybe we'll go out for coffee. Whatever you can do. And if you can't give that much, you can click other. You can give us $10, $15 again, whatever it is you can spare. Every dollar helps the campaign, because we're fighting back against people like, well, the people that you just saw. Josh Hawley, by the way, is on board with one of my major campaign initiatives, and that is banning congressional stock trading. And congressional stock trading is bad for a lot of reasons, but I'll let Josh Hawley explain it.
Say that we have an opportunity here today to do something that the public has wanted us to do for decades, and that is to ban members of Congress from profiting on information that, frankly, only members of Congress have in the buying and selling of stock. 86% of Americans say that members of Congress should not be able to buy and sell shares of stock, individual stock, while they are members of this body, and they are absolutely correct. And the reason is, you can see it, there was just another ethics referral in the House last week. We've seen the former Speaker of the House make millions of dollars in profits. We've seen members of both parties, I'm sad to say, be investigated for their stock trades. And the reason for all of this is that, quite frankly, members of this body are privy to information that the normal person just is not. Now, is that insider trading? It is not under the laws. Sometimes people say, well, we already have insider trading laws. We don't need a stock ban. Well, the information that members of Congress are privy to is technically not covered by the insider trading laws, but nobody really believes that the information that we get isn't valuable. It is quite valuable, which is why back during COVID, you saw members of Congress of both parties engage in a flurry of stock trading right after they were getting COVID briefings. Were members of the public getting those briefings? They were not. Were members of the public privy to the kind of information that was being given to members of Congress? No, they were not. And so when you look at what members of Congress are privy to, what they are able to trade on, the access that they have, it's just qualitatively different than your average Joe or Jane, which is why we ought to put into place common sense guardrails that say, if you want to be a member of Congress, you can put you want to save, great. You can buy mutual funds, you can buy broadly diversified investment vehicles. You should not be able to buy and trade individual stock shares in which, frankly, we have an interest in the work that we do. We have information that no other people get, no other members of the public have. This bill would finally redress that. It is in substance identical to the bill that the committee passed last year. And I believe it is a huge step forward in finally addressing this problem. I urge a yes vote, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and that is something that has always been a huge problem, and it's something that they've never been able to remedy because there's so many Congress people on both sides of the aisle who are doing it. Let me pull just as, a random example, John Rutherford from Florida's 5th District, who is one of those Congress people he mentioned who has been investigated 152 violations of the Congressional Stock Act. And the Congressional Stock Act basically is saying, it's a loosely written law that basically says what Josh Hawley just said. If you're a member of Congress, you should not take information that you're privy to and the American public is not and use it to make yourself rich. But on 152 occasions, that's exactly what John Rutherford did. And since he's a member of the Appropriations Committee, where they find out where all the money's going to be, appropriated, he knew where the money was going before anyone else did, and he was able to call a stockbroker and say, buy, sell, buy, sell. On the flip side, when he got busted and these 152 ethics violations were brought up against Congressman John Rutherford from Florida's 5th District, guess what happened? He also sits on the Ethics Committee. Isn't that convenient? And so he and his buddies on the Ethics Committee threw out all 152 violations against him. It's really the perfect recipe. When you sit on the Appropriations Committee and the Ethics Committee and no other committees, it's the only two committees he's on, Appropriations and Ethics, you're basically telling people, I'm going to Congress to trade stocks on inside information and also keep myself out of trouble. It's the perfect recipe of all the committees you could sit on. Those are the two committees that pay you out the most amount of money and keep you from ever getting in trouble. Matt Gaetz took the blaze around the Capitol building, and he described it perfectly.
So one of the committees where people have a lot of information is the Appropriations Committee, because they can view almost any vector of government funding. And so, this is Mr. Rutherford's office. He's on the Ethics Committee and the Appropriations Committee. 152 stock trades. Stocks go through the roof. And, actually bought Raytheon stock the day that Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, imagine if every American could make money off of war.
Bought Raytheon stock. That's not a joke, by the way. That's actually true. Matt Gaetz was reporting everything. Matt Gaetz did a big investigation into this. That's why John Rutherford hates him. That's why John Rutherford voted to release the ethics investigation against Matt Gaetz, even after Matt Gaetz left Congress. That ethics investigation against Matt Gaetz should have been thrown out the minute that Matt Gaetz resigned his position as a congressman from Florida's 1st District, but it wasn't. John Rutherford voted, along with a bunch of Democrats, to release it because he hates Matt Gaetz. Why? Because Matt Gaetz called him out for stock trading violations and making money off of war by investing in Raytheon. That's something that is a huge issue. That's something that definitely needs to be taken care of. That's something I definitely am going to look into taking care of when I get to Congress. Speaking of war, there's a couple of other things that have been happening, and Donald Trump was asked. So, all right, there's a couple things going on. First of all, Donald Trump is using this trade situation, all of these trade deals that you hear about, and you hear about a new trade deal every single day, the massive trade deal with the EU, the massive trade deal with Japan, the trade deal with Indonesia, all of these things that President Donald Trump is doing. He announced tariffs on India just this morning. Why? Well, because India's just been a horrible trading partner. They have the most strict trading policies. We lose so much money to India, and they're supposedly one of our besties. So Donald Trump is going to he's going to put a stop to all of that as soon as he can. But this whole deal with these trade negotiations and these trade deals coming through from all these other countries, it's all part of a bigger issue, and that is the trade war with China. Because China is the big fish. And as these trade deals start getting put into place, we see more and more that they affect what's going on with the negotiation concerning China. And that negotiation is going on right now. And here's Kevin Hassard to tell us exactly how it's going as of now.
How do you see this negotiation with China at this point?
Right. Well, I was given quite a bit of briefing about the ongoing negotiations, and the president is going to get the final briefing from Jamieson Greer and Secretary Bessent tomorrow, at which point he's going to see the details of what was negotiated, and he'll make the final call. But I got to say that it was really a heartening readout of what happened. That, as you know, that President Trump and President Xi are very close. But one of the things I've seen is that the Chinese counterparts and Secretary Bessent and Jamieson Greer are building a positive working relationship where there are people that they can talk to work things out. And so I think that what we're hearing is a very, very positive meeting, and that we expect that the president's going to be very pleased with things. And of course, him being President Trump, he's going to find things to improve. But if you look back at the history over the last 2 weeks, that we've had the biggest trade deals in American history. We had Japan open up their market to our products, give us more than $500 billion and accept a 50% tariff. And Europe, our largest trading partner, just basically did the same. And so we've got more than $1 trillion of commitments of investment into the U.S. while they're accepting the fact that we have tariffs. Now, I know there's some European countries that are grumbling about that, but the fact is that they gave the authority to negotiate this deal to the EU, and we negotiated with the EU in good faith, and we got a great deal for us. And I'm sure in the end they're going to recognize that it's a great deal for them too.
And it's
Yeah, I'm sure after a while. Yeah, I'm sure they'll stop grumbling. Eventually, they're going to have to shut up about it. Eventually, they're going to shut up and realize that they have a good deal. But as of right now, they're annoyed. There's a lot of countries that are annoyed with the EU. What's her name? Ursula, whatever her name is. And because she's the one that negotiated this deal, her team's the one that put this deal together. And as Kevin Hassett mentioned there, it's the largest deal in history. And we got a pretty decent tariff, and they're investing over $1 trillion in our economy. So that seems like a win for us, and I'm not really sure how it's a win for the EU. But again, I don't care because I don't live in the EU. But it all comes down to China. And here's Scott Bessent, who is giving a little bit of an insight into what he has been negotiating with the Chinese.
I think that everyone can see the arc of where these trade deals are going. I won't say that the Chinese were on their heels because they're very composed. But Vice Premier Hu Feng is a seasoned politician, but it's clear that the momentum was with us. That when you get the EU, the world's largest trading bloc, when you get that deal inked, we had Japan, we had Indonesia, we had Vietnam. So not only did we have the EU, who has a very large trading relationship with China, we also had 3 of their neighbors.
Yeah. So we've got all of these Asian countries, and all of these Asian countries are working with us, and all of these Asian countries are basically putting together a trade deal with the United States of America, and that is something that is huge. And the other thing that's happening is we're starting to see the Chinese realize that these trading deals we have with the EU are setting them up for a position where they almost have no negotiate. They're almost going to have to do whatever it is that we tell them, because there's going to be no one left for them to trade with. Donald Trump beat everybody to the punch. And now, speaking of countries that are surrounding China or that are important to China, Donald Trump is doing the same thing with India. Let me just pull this so we can all read it. If you're watching the thing, here we go. So Donald Trump posted on Truth Social, remember, while India is our friend, we have, over the years, done relatively little business with them because their tariffs are far too high, among the highest in the world, and they have the most strenuous and obnoxious non-monetary trade barriers of any country. Also, they have always bought a vast majority of their military equipment from Russia and are Russia's largest buyer of energy, along with China, at a time when everyone wants Russia to stop the killing in Ukraine. All things not good. India will therefore be paying a tariff of 25% plus a penalty for the above starting on August 1st. Thank you for your attention to this matter, MAGA. And again, this is Donald Trump using what he has in place to get what he wants done. This is Donald Trump saying, look, India, you guys are killing us on trade. You're not fair. We've been doing all this great stuff for you. You're supposedly our friend. We're not going to do it anymore. We're going to put a 25% tariff on you. And also you have to stop buying stuff from Russia. You have to stop buying energy from Russia because all you're doing is you're fueling their military and they're using that military to kill Ukrainians. And every time they kill Ukrainians, Europe gets mad at us and they want more money from us and I don't want to give them any more money. So here's what we're going to do. We're basically, Donald Trump is trying to bankrupt the Russian energy sector. And he's doing so by forcing our allies, which India is our ally, the European Union, they're our ally. I mean, these are people that they have no business buying from Russia. They should all be thrilled to work with the United States of America. They should feel a privilege that Donald Trump allows them to work with us and buy our energy. And India's like, no, they're treating us horribly. They're charging us for this, that. They won't let us trade. They won't let us bring any of our crops or our vehicles or our products into their country. And now Donald Trump's like, forget it. You stole all of our call centers. Every time we pick up the phone and call tech support, it routes to India. And you're making money off of us, and we're not making a dime off of you. We're not going to do it anymore. 25% tariff. And he does that because that starts the conversation. That's how it begins. How do we know that's how it begins? Because Howard Lutnick told us that's exactly how these negotiations begin. That's how it began with the EU.
Oh, I mean, that's why I have the most fun job in the cabinet. You know, I get to set the table. I mean, I met with the European Union representatives 40 times. And in the beginning, they were basically giving me the middle finger. We were nowhere. They wouldn't even respond to us. And they didn't respond until Donald Trump sent them a letter saying, you know, if you're not going to respond, pay 50%. And then all of a sudden that changed, right? And they started responding. And then he sent them another letter saying, look, you guys are doing a little bit, so 30%. And then, boom, off we went until they offered to open their markets completely, pay us 15%. But the key to why they did that is the sectoral tariffs, the tariffs on autos, the tariffs that are coming on pharmaceuticals, the tariffs that are coming on semiconductors, because Donald Trump is the U.S. is the biggest customer in the world. We were going to take all those industries back to America. And basically what he told Europe, if you want to keep half, you better do a deal with me.
And that's what Donald Trump does with everybody. That's what he's doing with India now. He's saying to India, all right, look, we want to deal with you. And India's like, no, we're fine. So Donald Trump goes, all right, 25% tariff. Well, now India's going to get on the phone and call Donald Trump. And they're going to say, all right, let's make a deal. And Donald Trump's going to make a deal. He's going to whittle it down a little bit. And then they're going to make more of a deal. And he's basically, by setting these tariffs worldwide, he's basically saying, this is how we begin negotiation. And it happens over and over again. And everybody gets caught up in it. Nobody is safe from it. Nobody can say no because Donald Trump is negotiating with the most valuable thing in the world, the United States of America. Donald Trump is negotiating with the most valuable thing in the entire world, the United States of America, the largest market, the richest people, the largest group of consumers, the largest economy, the largest military, the United States of America. Everybody wants to do business with us. Nobody wants to be cut out. Everybody wants us on their team. Nobody wants us playing against them because they know they will lose. So Donald Trump says, if you want to do business with the United States of America, that's fine, but you're going to pay out the wazoo, 50% tariff, 25% tariff, whatever it is. That brings them to the table and they negotiate down from there. And he's doing it with Russia. He wants this war in Russia to stop, so he's going to do the same thing. Tariff, tariff, tariff. And we know this because that's what he told the folks on Air Force One.
Yesterday, you mentioned that you would change the Russia deadline to 10 to 12 days. Has that started yet, or when can we, see the official statement that is the new deadline?
I'll tell you what. I'll give it to you now. Do you want a big scoop?
Yes. Please.
Everybody else, close your ears. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
10 days from today.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Good.
Have you communicated?
We have a scoop.
Thank you.
And then, we're going to put on tariffs and stuff, and I don't know if it's going to affect Russia. We because he wants to obviously probably keep the war going. But we're going to put on tariffs and the various things that you put on. It may or may not affect them, but it could.
Yeah, it may or may not affect them, but it could. It will. Don't worry. He knows that it's going to affect them. He knows that he's squeezing Russia into submission on Ukraine. He's squeezing Russia into. He's like, look, Vladimir Putin won't react to my phone calls. He won't react to decency. He won't react to us boosting our military presence in Ukraine. You know what he's going to react to? Money. If he's broke, if the people of Russia are broke, if he doesn't have any more money to go and bomb Ukraine or send or buy Chinese drones to fly into Ukraine, if he doesn't have any more cash left, then there's no more war. You can't fund a war without funds. Donald Trump knows that. So he's choking off their economy. He's stealing $750 billion worth of European energy from Russia. He's now forcing India to come to the table and stop buying their energy from Russia. He's going to do the same thing with China when they negotiate a deal with China. And he's going to tariff Russia out the wazoo. And it doesn't matter. We have our own vodka. Tito's is perfectly good vodka. We don't need Smirnoff or Stoli or any of that stuff. We can get by on Tito's. Good old American. I think it's made in Texas. I think so. I don't know. I'll have to double check that. But whatever it is, there's nothing we need from Russia, and there's everything that they need from us. That's how Donald Trump is going to do it. And that's how Donald Trump is going to win. And that's why Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, said this.
You've been described as a global macro veteran and you run a hedge fund. In this moment, where would you put your money if you were still running one?
United States of America.
The United States of America. I would put my money in the United States of America. 150%. Put your money in the United States of America. This is the new golden age. That's not just a joke. That's not just a catchy campaign slogan. This is actually happening. We're watching it every single day. We're watching the money roll in. We're watching the tariff revenue come in. We're watching Americans get more opportunity. We're watching Americans get more jobs. We're watching the GDP be as the winner of the GDP beauty contest, as Kevin Hassett said, was July. We're watching your revenue go up, your income go up. Taxes are going to come down. They already have. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Social Security members are I've already seen it too. There's such a growing number of people who are thrilled about this economy that they are not only purchasing things in greater numbers, but they're selling things in greater numbers. They know that here's what happens. When more Americans have more money, they don't save it. We don't save stuff, we spend it. If you got a tax break, odds are you bought something. And that's what you're supposed to do. That's what keeps the economy. Hoarding your money does not keep the economy strong. You need to make money and invest it, make money and invest it. And what we're seeing is more and more people are spending the money that they're making. And that encourages more and more Americans to do what? Start businesses and start side hustles and come up with products and chase their dreams and become entrepreneurs and all that other stuff. And the more that we have, the more businesses people create, the more jobs they create, and then there's even more money. And that's how economies become great. You cut taxes, you give individual consumers more money, they go out and buy stuff and invest and start businesses, they create more jobs, and all of a sudden, bada bing, bada boom, the economy is bigger than ever before, and we've got more businesses and we've got more tax dollars, and it's just incredible. And everybody's happy. I see it because every couple of weeks I do something called Podcast Profits Live. And in fact, I'm doing it again tonight. And every time we do this, we have more and more people that write to me. And they say, I want to come and I want to watch and I want to learn how to use a podcast to promote my stuff. I want to come and I want to watch and I want to learn how to build a business. I have a book that I wrote, or I'm a consultant, or I work in a restaurant. I want to use social media. I want to use podcasting. I want to use my voice to try and build a business and make more money. And the good news is now's the perfect time because there are more consumers out there and they have more money to spend on whatever it is you want to offer them. So if you've ever thought of starting a business, if you've ever thought of selling your stuff with a podcast or any other form of social media, there's never been a better time. The new golden age is when you start your business. The new golden age is when you start to grow your list of customers, because the new golden age is when everybody has money to spend, and they might as well spend it with you. If they have money to spend and they're looking for something to buy, give them something to buy and build your own business, build your own new golden age, build your own American dream. That's how it works. And if you don't know how to do that, if you don't know how to get in touch with people or make offers or anything like that, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. That means if you're on the West Coast, it's 5 p.m. Pacific time. At Eastern time, 8 p.m., I will be hosting live tonight. I'm going to be sitting right here. I may be wearing the same exact clothes, and I'm going to be talking into the same microphone, and I'm going to share with you for an hour how you can launch a money-making podcast without a studio, without technical skills, or without a huge online following, and how you can use it to promote your business. And if you don't have a business, I'll give you one. And it's all free. This is all free. Podcast Profits Live, I call it. We do it every couple of weeks. We're doing it tonight. If you would like to learn how I built my podcast company, how I built my social media empire, how I built a business, because I don't work for anyone else anymore. I sit here every single day. You watch me. You see me twice. In the morning, I have the 47 Daily. In the afternoon, I have Kaye Saves the Republic. And that's all I do. And I pay for my house, and I pay for my car, and I take my family on trips and vacations. My son's going to college, and it's all under my own umbrella. I have freedom. I have security. And if you're looking for both of those in the new golden age, I would urge you to join me. The website is podcastprofitspro.com. Podcastprofitspro.com. There is also a link in the description of this video on YouTube and Rumble if you would like to go and sign up there. It's 8 p.m. tonight, so sign up now. Like, don't dilly-dally. Don't be like, oh my God, it's 8:01. I mean, if it's 8:01, you can still probably get in, but it does fill up. I would do it now. Sign up now. We'll send you the link. And then 8 p.m. tonight, Eastern time. Again, it's not politics. I'm not going to be sitting around talking about Joe Biden, Kamala. I might. Sometimes I throw in a little political quip here and there, but it's really, it's a celebration of capitalism is what it is. I mean, the United States of America, what Donald Trump is doing is he is promoting capitalism. America first means capitalism first. Donald Trump is a guy who understands what it's like to create. In fact, Chuck Schumer has a big problem with it. But listen to this. Listen to Chuck Schumer talking about President Donald Trump.
What's happening here in Washington with all this cost increase happening, with all this chaos? In addition, unfortunately, it's unprecedented corruption. Never in our lifetimes have we seen a president use the levers of power so transparently to personally enrich himself and his inner circle. That never happened in America. Presidents, Democrats, Republicans, independents, conservatives, liberals, they respected the fact that their office, being in high office, was a guardianship, not to grab and reach and make money and enrich themselves. But that's what Trump is doing regularly.
That's what we all should be doing, is making money and enriching ourselves. And all Donald Trump is doing is building a better economy where everybody can flourish. Donald Trump is a capitalist. Here's the thing. If you have people go to Washington, D.C., and they're not involved, or they're not excited about making the economy great again. I mean, Donald Trump owns businesses. If his businesses are thriving, guess what? So is everyone else's. So are the rest of ours. Donald Trump is not using the levers of power to enrich himself. He's creating an economic environment where businesses can thrive. That is his job as the president of the United States. And that is his lifestyle as a capitalist. That's what we all should be doing. Everybody should be pulling whatever personal lever of power you have to create opportunity for yourself and for others. That's all Donald Trump is doing. Chuck Schumer says it's wrong. Also, he says never before has anyone ever done it. Dude, we talked to Nancy Pelosi. She did it the wrong way. Donald Trump's doing it the right way. Anyway, that is 8 o'clock tonight. Podcastprofitspro.com if you want to go sign up. Podcastprofitspro.com, or click the link in the description of this video. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe because, man, I'm so excited. August is kind of a down month. If it weren't for Oprah Winfrey, a possibly white woman, blocking off her road, we wouldn't have had a lot to talk about. If it weren't for the Epstein summer, there really wouldn't be a lot going on, because what's happening is we've got Congress that's in recess. We've got the Senate that's going to go on recess soon. Oh, in fact, before we go, there was a clip of one of our favorite senators, John Kennedy, who was asked about the Epstein files and going on recess.
Say that we have an opportunity.
That's Josh Hawley. Hang on. Where is... I have it. Oh no, do I not have it? I thought I had it. Maybe I don't have it. Anyway, it was John Kennedy talking about whether or not... Oh, here it is.
recess, do you worry at all that this Epstein issue is going to be a distraction from talking about the benefits of the One Big Beautiful Bill?
Well, the Epstein mess is already a distraction. And it's not a political issue for me. It's a moral issue. If adults aren't going to protect our kids, who is? This guy Epstein was a pig, P-I-G, pig. And this is, I think we established a long time ago, this is no country for creepy old men. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Epstein, we know, trafficked young women, some of whom were minors. American people want to know, and they're entitled to know, who, if anyone, he trafficked these women to. And if there were such people, such men, then why weren't they prosecuted? And the Justice Department is going to need to answer that. Now, how they answer that is up to them, but they need to answer it. But we're packed. I mean, in some respects, the Justice Department has dug up more snakes than they could kill, okay, in terms of their handling of this. And I don't think I think we're beyond the point where they can say, look, trust me, there's nobody else. I think now the American people want to see receipts. And I want to give them plenty of time, a reasonable amount of time to, and I think Congress should too, to decide how they're going to answer that. But I think they're going to answer it, and they should.
Yeah, so that's John Kennedy saying, look, it's already a distraction, and it's true, but it's the only story, unfortunately for President Donald Trump, that's got any legs. Donald Trump, and you know, this could be, I'm an optimist. I'm a silver lining kind of guy, right? And I know that Donald Trump doesn't want the Epstein case to be the focus of attention. I know he wants to talk about all of his great successes. I know he wants to talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill. I know he wants to talk about all of these trade deals. And I know that every time Donald Trump and his team do something amazing, it seems like he gets a little bit of publicity for it. And then it's just back to Epstein. It's CNN asking Bernie Sanders about Epstein. It's Chuck Schumer talking about Epstein. It's Epstein all over the place. Every single time the reporters in Scotland and on the plane are talking about Epstein. Every single time Donald Trump does something great, it leads back to a conversation about Epstein. And I think if we're looking for the silver lining, maybe this keeps Donald Trump doing amazing things. Like, he was going to do amazing things anyway, but maybe he's going to keep trying to one-up himself. Maybe he's like, all right, fine, the EU deal was huge. You guys are still talking about Epstein. Wait till you see the China deal. And then wait till you see the India deal. Then wait till you see this. And he's going to keep doing greater and greater things, hopefully in an effort to bury this Epstein story. So in a way, maybe it's inspirational. Although, like I said, I don't think Donald Trump needed a lot of inspiration. Listen, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to whatever channel and platform you're watching right now. Make sure you set those notifications, and then join me tonight, because I don't know when I'm going to do another one, for Podcast Profits Live. Go to podcastprofitslive.com. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching. If you've been watching the live stream, thanks so much for coming here every single day and supporting us. Thank you to our super chatters and our Rumble ranters. Thanks to everybody who supports our campaign, because I got to come in here every single day. I got to eat too, but I come in here every single day. And it's my job. It's my goal. It's my purpose in life to keep you informed, to do it in an entertaining way so you actually pay attention, to keep you inspired that the future, no matter who's attacking us, no matter what scoundrels there are in Washington, D.C., whether Democrat or Republican, I want you to know that everybody out there is, for the most part, there is goodness in America. And if the good people like us, if all the Catriots can keep coming together every single day, and if I can keep walking in here to Catriot HQ in Mar-A-Lago in illustrious downtown Jacksonville and produce this amazing show for you every single day, and if you subscribe to it and share it with people and listen to it, then we are going to be well prepared. We are going to be well armed. We're going to have huge numbers. And when it comes time to fight, we will save the Republic. Have a fantastic day.